Hello, welcome new burner friends. Really nice to see you all this afternoon. While you're getting settled, please feel free to rename yourself as is appropriate if you would like us to refer to you as your playa name. If you have preferred pronouns that you would like people to use, that's a great place for you to share that information with us. As a reminder for the folks that are here so far, you are in the panel that is entitled Support Sparks, Igniting the Flames of Camp Collaboration. Our goal for today is to have a conversation surrounding how art slash work slash vehicle support camps interact with other theme camps, how they interact with the event as a whole. So if that's where you meant to be, then you're in the right spot. Otherwise, you might need to find a different room for the topic that you were trying to hear. As we are getting started as well, I am we're going to post in the chat our community guidelines, which are here to help give some information to guide us in how we interact with each other. I am hoping that this does not come as a shock to anybody, but we're here to have a conversation and to talk about different things. And some people might have differing opinions. People might say something that you disagree with, and you know what? That's okay. As long as we're being respectful for other people, we're here to listen. We're here to learn. So don't be a jerk, and everyone will be fine. And I'm sure everyone can accomplish that. I believe in you all. So I will read the official guidelines to earn my non-paycheck. So for our meeting today, 6 asks. Number 1 is please mute your mic if you are not a panelist. We are going to have a Q&A section at the end. So obviously, if you're called on to ask your question, please unmute your mic then. Number 2, if you have a comment or question, please type it in the chat. We have a lovely chat moderator, Mr. Luis, who is here to help keep an eye on the chat, make sure that we get all those questions in and answered. Number 3, as we said, be respectful in your participation. Number 4, be present. We know that there's a bunch of other sessions going on here. We know that y'all have lives going on here, so don't feel like you need to be here for the whole time. But if you're here, we hope that you'll be present just like we want at the event. Number 5, speak from your own experience, please. This really helps in terms of like keeping the feels down for everyone. So things that you experience personally, that's your right to talk about. Things that you think about other things, this might not necessarily be the right place for that conversation. And finally, when we get to the Q&A section, our moderator, Luis, will help organize all of those questions. We'll create a stack. We'll leave about the last half of the panel for the Q&A, try and get in as many questions as we can. On that note, just a little overview of what our plan is for this session. So briefly, we're going to let our wonderful panelists give an introduction for themselves. And then we're going to spend the first part of the section answering a couple of questions that the panelists and I have come up with in advance that we think are kind of good seed topics. And then again, for the whole end half, we're just going to open it up for question and answers and have our discussion. So again, if there are any questions, concerns, comments about that, please share them in the chat. Otherwise, I will turn it over to our panelists for their introductions. Does anybody feel really strongly about going first?
All right. Hey, guys. We got Graham here. I reside in Brooklyn, New York. This is my 9th burn coming up and my 3rd time returning specifically as an art support camp. We have an art project called the Black Rock City Taxi Co. So we offer rides to those across the playa. We're bringing a couple new taxis this year, so we're very excited and happy to share my experience because it is, a totally different experience running a support camp than a theme camp. So happy to be here and hello to everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. LZ, JP, would one of you like to pick it up from here?
I'll go next.
Yay.
Hey everybody, my name is Laura or LZ. I live here in San Francisco. I'll be at the happy hour later if anyone's in town, come say hi. So this will be my third burn. I've only been to the burn with our wonderful mutant vehicle, which is called the Dirty Goat Roadhouse. It's a rad, smaller vehicle. It fits about 20 or 30 people, depending how nice you are with each other. And we do have a bar. We serve non-alcoholic drinks starting last year, which was huge if anyone wants to talk about that. It's actually more rare to serve non-alcoholic than alcoholic drinks, which is great. And we have an excellent sound system. We like to be very approachable. Lots of these larger mutant vehicles, theme camps can be a little bit intimidating. We stop for everyone. We invite everybody to come along, experience it. And in addition to our mutant vehicle, we also have some sister camps. So a couple years ago, we did 3 horned art carts at the trash funds for a sunrise set, which was fantastic. This year, we're planning to camp next to our sister camp, which is a fire art camp. And in addition, I'm involved with Flaming Lotus Girls here in San Francisco, which is another art support camp. So happy to be here if anyone has any questions at all. They kind of made me the mayor because I'm involved in a little bit of everything. So really happy to share my experiences and some challenges we've overcome if anyone has anything like that to talk about. Thank you.
Awesome. Mr. JP,
Cool.
will you bring us home?
All right. Hey guys, I'm George. Or you can call me Rambo. I'm Playa. I'm the artist and TCO behind the Fluffy Cloud. It's I'm not really sure what it is. We were year one, we were under the artery as a mobile art installation. Then I was unceremoniously ejected from the artery because we threw too many giant parties. And so we're now a theme camp, but we've also been registered into the DMV too. So I think I kind of like that. It's one art project that has now gone across all 3 of the departments at Burning Man. So I've had some interesting experiences learning what's expected from all the different ones. If you guys haven't seen this before, it's a giant UFO looking 360 massive space testicle looking thing. And we mostly throw parties, but that's what people usually know us for, like big electronic music shows. But we'd like to change it up. So like last year and this year too, we have like a music event kind of party general type stuff one day, and then the other day we turn it into a giant jukebox. So anyone on Playa can come in. We have like a Starlink connected, Spotify. You do some challenges, and then you can play whatever your favorite. You want to listen to AC/DC or Britney Spears on our massive overhead 360 sound system. You can. So it's still sort of like a playful art project while also kind of a massive art car because it also rolls on wheels sometimes. It's all over the place. So yeah, it's been a unique experience. This will be my 5th burn. I came back with the cloud, but my 2nd burn, so it'll be the 4th burn for the cloud. And yeah, I guess I'm here to talk a little bit about all the topics from the perspective of, I guess, someone who's been sort of straddling every department of Burning Man so far.
Awesome. So those again are our 3 wonderful panelists. And because we're equal opportunity praisers here, I also want to give Luis and Mark an opportunity to introduce themselves. That these are our tech moderator and our chat moderator. So if you guys have questions or things that you want to direct your need to talk about during the event, much easier to message one of them instead of one of us who are talking.
I guess I'll go first. Luis, this will be my 3rd burn. Joined in 22. Didn't know what I was doing. It kind of just grew from there from our camp from 4 people. Now we have, I believe, 12 or a little above 12 people going this year. That we're hoping on. That's about it for me, I think.
Awesome. Appreciate you. Mr. Mark.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to add myself to the spotlight so you can all see me, but in case you can't, yeah. This is gonna be burn number 16 for me. I've been with largely with Planned Plywood, Cats before that, as in that's what we used to be before that. A few other things. We're an evolving camp, largely heavy in the theme camp thing. I've been mayor and done a lot of logistics and stuff like that. So yeah, a lot of making it happen. My ply name Scumlord comes from the fact that the past decade I've been doing all the waterworks. So big on the unfun stuff.
Awesome. People we need the most are the people who do the unfun stuff. Well, thank you to everyone who is on our team here. Obviously, we would love to allow time for all of our participants to introduce themselves, but we want to get into the meat of everything. So if you would like, please drop a little intro of yourself in the chat, and we will love to hear about it, and we'll read along as we get into our discussion. So transitioning. Again, we've got 5 questions that the panelists and I talked about ahead of time that we wanted to do to kick off this discussion, kind of lead us in the right direction before we turn everyone loose. And the first question may be a question that lots of people know, but it's an important one to get out anyways for anybody who doesn't exactly know. What is an art/vehicle/work support camp, and how is it different from a theme camp? So y'all, if any of all of you want to jump in, just tell us a little bit about like what exactly does your camp do and how might that be different from an experience of somebody just going in a standard theme camp.
I can start. So with our mutant vehicle, obviously it's large, it cannot back up, it's hard to turn. So when we're designing the layout of the camp, it's all about the mutant vehicle first. If we're lucky, we get a corner, and that's going to be our driveway. Otherwise, we're looking at some sort of cul-de-sac. And so just from the beginning of the design, that's the main difference. And if you're lucky, you can request to get placed next to someone. Then are they going to end up next to you? Or are they going to end up behind you? Can you combine forces, do a driveway for both of your mutant vehicles? So I'd say that's one of the main differences off the bat, and then the main focus obviously being the art or the mutant vehicle. So we're not as focused on having a pretty, street facade. We still want to be interactive and welcoming, but we're not going to have all the pretty, comfy, wonderful things that a theme camp might.
And you bring up an excellent point with your art car being difficult to back up. I assume that means that some of the roles in your camp are like spotters for your cars. So when we're answering this, can you all also share like what are some of the jobs that people in your camp do?
Sure, I'll just follow up on that real quick and pass the mic. But for us, our mutant vehicle, it's a big goat skull with horns over a bar and place to sit and dance. So we need a driver who's sober all the time. We need at least 2 spotters, and we need either a DJ or a bartender, and we can always have, people that kind of flex. But for us, a minimum to get out is I'd say 3 to 5 people. If we're just going for a quick run, to Arctica, maybe a few less, but for us, that's what it takes to get going.
Great.
I'll answer in a very simple, straight to the answer to question. What is these things? It's a camp that is not required to have any kind of major interactivity or anything at the camp itself, because your contribution gift to the burn is either an art piece on playa or a mutant vehicle rolling around playa. Period. Is that? Yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
Got nothing else to add. That's the answer to the question.
Love it. Brother Graham, anything that you want to add or differentiate? Any interesting jobs that some of your campers have that people might not expect?
I don't want to, I think they did a good job of describing it, but one thing that we noticed our first year is that you appear like you're a normal camp. And so like there isn't necessarily like a marker saying, oh, this is not interactive or this is an art support camp. And you're on the map as if you were a camp. So it's kind of up to you to also communicate and let your neighbors know what they're doing. And you're not just like a bummy camp of people not doing anything with no interactivity, depending on what you have going on. So I'm sure we'll get into a lot more, but just wanted to share that. I think they did a good job of defining it.
Definitely. So let's move on to question number 2. This is what are some of your favorite slash least favorite non-support camps? We won't have to name names here. So you can maybe just say, I went to a camp and I didn't quite think, I thought that there's room for improvement, or you can focus on things that you really like, but what are some of the support camps that are doing it well, or where some room for improvement?
I'm honestly trying to think if I'm like aware of, it's funny. It's like sometimes I feel like the support camps kind of fall under the radar because we don't always announce themselves. So I can't even say, I can't say I have a really good memory. I know there are a couple camps in our neighborhood that we know because we were walking distance that were support camps, and we all kind of felt like we became little safe havens where there wasn't music blaring, where you could get water, get shade, and kind of like tried to be useful to our neighborhood by almost, especially with how hot, not last year, but it's been in last burns when it's 110.
Definitely.
And some people like get stranded and don't want to have a heat stroke. So yeah, that's what I love most about art support camps is really just creating some more low-key safe spaces for people to hang and enjoy themselves without it needing to be overly interactive, if that makes sense.
I would agree with that. Like because these camps are not really required to have any kind of major activity. I'm exactly the same boat. I don't remember really meeting other art support camps ever. Like I guess I was like my first year I was like sandwiched between Mind Warrior and Robot Heart, so that was like very different. And then since then we've been on the 10 and 2s. But I mean, I don't want to jump ahead to one of the future questions, but I think I'm not going to jump ahead, but like we have some commentary. I know we talked about internally with the panelists around some very small ways that I think art support camps could become just moderately more interactive in a way that like helps people connect with their art. And if I were to really, again, be overly serious on the question, like what's good or bad, I would judge an art support camp on whether or not they pulled off their art, right? Were they able to build the thing and bring the thing out on Playa that they said they would? If they did, good job. At least for now, like that's, as far as I understand, how the org and how the community, all that is expected of those camps, and they're not really expected to do anything else.
Yeah. Well, go for it.
I was just going to say something that was a interesting aside of anyone that was at the burn last year when it rained. And you couldn't go very far. Literally, it would take 10 minutes to walk to the Portos if you were close enough. So our camp and some of the other art car camps, your mutant vehicle couldn't go anywhere. So it became kind of like an activation zone for the neighborhood. And we just threw dance parties where we were in place. And we had, refreshing ginger beer and things to share. So I think to that point, you just never know. But yeah, I think there's definitely some opportunities. And someone in the chat mentioned they didn't even know until now that some of the camps they had seen were support camps. So maybe this is definitely an opportunity for us all to do a little better, just to explain and share what we're out there doing.
Yeah,
I
also feel like maybe like an on-playa art support camp mixer is in order after that question. You don't know each other. That could be really fun.
Yeah, sounds like a good new center camp event can be an art support camp mixer. Well, and that's part of why we have Symposium, to literally uncover this thing that we have all of these art camps here who are doing great things and just not talking to each other. And I'm willing to bet that there would be some benefits in coordinating.
Definitely. I think we're so focused on getting our art out there. If it's a mutant vehicle, we just want to get it set up and rolling. If you have art, you need to get that going and then you just go for it. So I think we're onto something here, Lion.
Well, and let's transition into some of the stuff that we're really excited to talk about, which is how do the support camps and the theme camps work better together? So our third question is, what are some of the things that you feel like your camp or support camps in general do well or can share with other theme camps? And then the flip side, what are some of the things that you might need support from your neighbors on? Maybe it's making room for your art car to turn around, but what are some of the things that a theme camp can do if they're next to a support camp to try and foster their part of the bargain?
I'll jump into this one. I think different kinds of art support camps based on the size of their art, the amount of experience they have and whatnot. One of the things they can definitely do to help each other, which I think we're pretty good at our camp, is, like tool sharing. Like, if you're bringing like some complicated art, like we have like 253-foot, like, dry van containers that are converted into full-on workshops. And usually we end up being like the local quartermaster for everyone within like 2 blocks that needs like, we also rent our own heavy equipment. We have a lot of that kind of stuff. So I think that's usually a place, but I think like all camps kind of help each other out and run over to each other in that way or another. But as I think of ways that like art support camps could do better in the future, but it's also going to be dependent on whether or not placement like helps camps connect in a broader fashion in the future, is that if more of these camps can connect with each other and even know that they're there, because I think that's the key issue, is that there's all these camps that just look like dead camps that nothing is going on, and you have no idea what they are, and you might not know that you're sitting next to a camp that just built one of the most complex wooden structures out there, that if you need a saw or something, you could probably go over there and they probably have a lot of gear you can use. And I think, again, fuck it, I'm just going to jump ahead. I forgot what the other questions we're going to have, but I think one of the things that we all really felt as panelists would be a great place to improve is to just minorly raise the requirements for art support camp and like other non-interactivity camps, let's call it, to just put up like a poster board or something with who are they and like what are they doing, right? It could be like art support camp, Black Baba sheep or whatever. We created this giant sheep out on Playa, and I think that would be a great opportunity for people to like connect with, like, oh, I saw that sheep thing, now I want to know these people. Or if they didn't see the sheep thing, they could say like, oh, that's fucking cool.
Our neighbors,
and then they built it. We should go out and specifically look for the big black sheep thing, which I think will just give everyone more information of what's going on at the burn, more chance to connect between artists, more chance to collaborate on tools and like whatever the hell it might be. And I think that's not a hard requirement. I think everyone tries to keep the artery and whatever requirements minimum as possible, but putting up a poster board with like a little light with some little lights on it and say, this is what we do, is not that big of a deal. And I think it would really help people understand, as you said, also not walking by a camp being like, why is this shitty little camp here not doing anything? They don't have an LED light, but it's like, no, but like, because all their work is out there,
Totally. Yeah, and that's part of the reason I know it was actually Level himself who wanted to have this session happen, partially for that exact reason, so we can have more of a conversation between theme camps and non-theme camps. And this is the ability to like share tools and even share resources. I know for my first year going, one of my favorite things was the night that we finished building our camp, that I went over to the neighbor's camp and I'm like, this is my first Burning Man. Can I help you guys build? And they're like, sure, here's a tool. So, everyone is there excited to help, and the more we can work together, the better. So I'll reset us for Brother Graham and LZ. If you have any thoughts on this, what does your camp do well that you might be able to provide for other camps around, and what might your camp need? What would it be great if other camps could help you out with?
Yeah. I think all the things, right? Share tools, We're actually really good at supporting our neighbors in just going to their events, because we're a lot of time, and the nature of a taxi service is our drivers are out driving all day. When we come back, we're exhausted. And so we actually like to just go support the neighbors. And that's an awesome way just to be of service, especially in the beginning when an event's, empty, and we call it sad hour, when something's just starting up. People are a little shy to come in, but that's about it. Other than that, pull resources and, just see what else is happening and how you can be, really friendly, whether you have extra food and you're, running over some chili to neighboring camps. We're all, especially last year, we're all in it together to be as comfortable as possible. So kindness goes the furthest out there, my experience says.
Yeah, I would agree with Graham. And for us, we try to come prepared, obviously self-reliant. You might not know what you're going to need till you're there. So, a tool breaks, something happens, etc. We ran out of propane. Somehow we found propane on Playa last year. This year, starting last year, we have our own fuel. So we did, by the way, I thought that was an opportunity since you need a radius around your fuel. So we made ours like a corral for a rodeo. So, just trying to do some opportunities there. But yeah, I think just getting to know your neighbors, introducing yourself, inviting them over to say hi, and then hopefully that'll help to spur collaboration and whatnot once you do run into something you might need.
Totally. Love that. All right, let's see. Back to our questions. We've got one more of our pre-thought out questions, and then we will have the opportunity to open it up to the participants for any questions that y'all might have. So if you want to get the wheels a-turning in your brains for anything you might want to open for discussion, you'll have the opportunity to do that real soon. So actually, I realized that I skipped a question too, so I'm going to combine these and we'll do them in one. The questions are about interactivity. So what sort of interactivity have your camps currently been doing? Nothing is an acceptable answer. We're here to talk about that. And to the point that we've all been getting into, what are some things that you think that your camp might consider implementing or might be interested in implementing or might like to implement? Let's have that discussion.
Yeah, I'll start because I have, we really feel strongly that if your team is stressed with the art project, not to take on too much. Our first year we did, and we had all these parties and things planned, and it totally wore us thin and ended up, we just like put in way more than we had as a camp. And we were so excited to come as a first year art support camp that we almost felt like we had to prove it by being interactive, even though that's not a requirement. And so last year we dialed it back a bit, and the reason a lot, meaning shade, couches, a water bar, and I think we had like one mixer. It was like a celebration for our drivers, but literally nothing. And what's really amazing is, and it's an important conversation, is as you're picking people for your camp, it's actually great for people that don't like overstimulated, over interactive experiences. If you're someone that wants to go to Burning Man, but doesn't want to be around a 24/7 party or doesn't want to be, now, again, if your art project is parked at your camp and throwing parties, it's tough. But there are many art support camps that are really focused on wherever their art is and don't have a lot of interactivity. And we found we've attracted awesome builders, engineers that are really happy that nothing happens at our camp. It's like a safe space, it's quiet. And, Burning Man's for everyone, right? So we have to have different types of camps that attract different types of people, especially someone who might get anxious or overwhelmed in something where there's strangers coming up every 5 minutes. Are you open? What's going on? Can I get a drink? And we really don't almost have anyone wandering in our camp other than in our front, like little lawn where we have, a dozen or so little couches that we have people and let them sit on. And that's kind of like a self-service, right? So yeah, that's my take on it. And it's really awesome. And I'm so happy after 5 years of being in a very interactive camp to now be in a new stage of my Burning Man where I'm actually in a quiet camp where it's not crazy. And it's like I put on the radio, I put my feet up, I'm hanging out. So that's me, that's my burn, and I love it. So yeah, I just wanted to share that.
Awesome.
I can say for us, it's not as much interactivity at the camp per se. We're just trying to be more interactive with our mutant vehicle and invite more folks to do takeovers, to play music, just to take it out. Last year we were across from a theme camp and they asked if they could take the goat out. And obviously for liability purposes, we can't just give them the we'll go drive it for them. They can spot, it's a collaborative effort, but we're always just trying to say yes. If someone wants to take it out, if someone wants to hop on a ride, we always stop. If someone, their bike broke, we try to pick them up. So, I'd say that's an opportunity for us at the camp. But as far as with our mutant vehicle, we definitely are trying to invite everybody and just say yes as much as we can.
I'm on the
Love that.
opposite side of that. I'm trying to say no as much as possible. Let me explain. So if I were to give some advice to certain camps that, you know, are doing certain work, is to be very careful for not burning out your people. I have been very much on the borderline of that at the Fluffy Cloud. Like, we did too much over our years. We were serving ramen the last few years too, while at the same time throwing a 5,000 person parties at a time. It was insane. And, you know, as I think about what I'm doing, I'm a theme camp now, but, you know, still with some more artsy vibes to it. I'm cutting back as much as possible so that people actually want to come back and you can build a good team and have something that is repeatable. So I do encourage people to think yourselves as you're looking at what you need to do. You know, I do believe that as a community, as an org rule or whatever, adding this like identifying way to identify art support camps as a minimum is not something that's going to burn anyone out. Now, if you got a couple of years of doing your art, you're doing great, and you want to add a little bit more and everyone's into it, go for it. Just be really careful because it starts to add up. And at some point, when you're trying to, you know, add all the little perks, all the different ideas, all of a sudden everyone wants to host a party at their camp when you really don't need to. And next thing you know, your art, your main gifts, the things that I actually think are a lot more unique at the Burn. I always tell people that when I'm telling them about Burning Man, they're like, what's your favorite part of Burning Man? I'm like, not my shit. Like, honestly, lots of people throw fucking giant parties. I think the unique art and the other kind of weird shit that comes out from, you know, artery and just, you know, other theme camps that aren't music based is a lot more special. So I don't know. I would just encourage people to always be thinking about what is your purpose there. Make sure you get that done really well while also allowing the people on your team to be happy and enjoying it, because it's fucking hard. And then if you can find ways to help your neighbors in a way that isn't, you know, gonna like fuck your shit up, you know, go for it. But I'm a little bit more on the pulling back side at this point because I've had some people break.
I agree. And so on that note, having said that, we do try to say yes, but certainly you got to be careful for burnout. What we determined last year is having kind of shifts. You know, we could do a daytime run, a sunset run, and a late night into sunrise. So saying yes, but yeah, not saying too much. So I think it's good to have limits. And I like what you mentioned about just pulling back, and some folks in the chat were saying, you know, do it better. So knowing our limits, not overdoing it, how can we invite people, you know, within all those guidelines, I'd say.
So true, so true. And this is why it's great to have this type of panel discussion and hear it from both sides, because it really depends on you as an individual and as your individual camps. Some camps are in the position where they have room to do more, and if they can and they want to, then they should. The camps that are in the position to do less, that's great too. That's how we all get by. With that said, we have come to the point in time that we can open it up for questions from the audience. Now, we have some backup questions that we can keep talking about if we don't get anything that comes up that's burning for us to talk about. But this is a radical participation event. So if anybody who's here in our panel has either a question for any of the panelists, or just has a topic that they'd like to speak about and kind of get feedback or bring up a question for everyone else, we will open it up. While we're doing this and allowing some time for people to think, I can share my way that I learned how to take it easy at Burning Man, which was my very first year. I got here, I came for build to help the camp build. Finally, the event starts. Sunday happens, going real hard on Sunday, up all night because I'm at Burning Man. I can't go to sleep. Go into the next morning, still going real hard, into the next afternoon, still doing it. We come to the next evening and it gets to the next morning, and I'm in a conversation with a very cute girl, at least I think, as you will figure out later in this conversation, because I like couldn't finish a complete sentence at this time because I've been up for like almost 2 days straight. And this girl like fully called me out on it. She's like, I think you need to go and get some sleep. And I was like, you are right. And then I went home because it wasn't that fun to be at Burning Man when I couldn't even form full sentences. So that's when I learned that, yes, being at Burning Man is fun, but getting enough sleep so you can enjoy your time at Burning Man is fun. And you can apply that to any sort of need for rest that you have.
Yeah, and what do they call it? The Wednesday freak out, or if you're gonna have a breakdown, usually by Wednesday might be
Midweek meltdown. Oh yeah.
Oh, I'll throw out just another random thing that I've been trying to tell a bunch of people from every symposium I've been going to for the last 3 years, although placement has not listened to me so far. So I'm hoping if I keep screaming about it, it may happen, is that in the context of how can art camps or any kind of camps, forget what kind of camps there are, DMV, artery, support, theme camps, I think that one of the best ways that we can start doing things better, being more green, being more efficient, saving more money, is if there is some way to better learn who not just our immediate touching neighbors are, like a month and a half before the burn or whatever that timetable is, but actually maybe getting, I'm sure placement has a reason for why they do not tell anyone who's like on the block or like within a block in each direction. But those are the people that you are in a best ability to share resources, whether it's generators or, food storage or tool sharing. Like proximity is key to collaboration, which I think is a kind of an ongoing theme around like hubs and, the green initiatives and blast and all those other things. But it is so damn hard to do when you only know who's immediately next to you. When like, someone who's maybe just across the road that isn't technically your neighbor could have the exact heavy equipment you need that you now can share, as opposed to spending $17,000 to bring your own VR out there. And that is a thing all camps can do better, but until we are somehow provided with the data, the information to enable that, or exactly, collaborative block party, collaborative, like all that kind of stuff. Like, yes, once you get on Playa, you can try to walk around and meet people. But speaking from my own experience, and someone else tell differently, is that once I'm on Playa, I have my interactivity planned, and I'm just trying to get that shit done and do it right and deliver. And every now and then, if a cool new idea comes up, I could maybe think about it. But the chances of actually doing really cool new collaborative interactivity or just more efficient everything is going to be a lot easier if we can find out who is, let's call it within 500 feet of your camp, like 3 months early. That would be fucking huge. Like that would really, really help. Sorry, language, but yeah.
All good. We'll let it slide here. This is not an FCC sponsored event. So that actually does dovetail pretty well into one of our additional questions that we have, which is how do support camps navigate challenges such as resource allocation, volunteer recruitment, and maintaining sustainability while supporting art projects or vehicles? And I'm going to asterisk this as well, since it seems like from our comments that we've got some other support camp leads or related people. If there are folks who are watching here who want to jump in on one of these questions and give your 2 cents, we've got the space for that. So raise your hand, and we'd love to hear from some of the other people in the room as well. But while we wait, or while we give space for that, Laura and Brother Graham, any other thoughts on, have your camps had situations where you faced challenges for resource challenges, recruitment challenges? How do you handle that? How could people help?
Yeah, this is something that's come up for us, and I don't know if it's the size, I don't know if it's mitigated if you have a larger art project like you do, Rambo. So I'm very curious, but when you're in art camp, for anyone listening that doesn't have one, or maybe we could all just talk about our experience, you put in your art support camp application, and then you put in your art application. If there's an element that has a motor, you put in your mutant vehicle application. I'm pretty sure, Rambo, you probably had 3 at one point applications to do. And for us, we've had the problem where, and it has to do with resources, where we get a certain amount of tickets and they say, all right, here's your camp. This is the plot. It's this by this. But then they won't issue us enough early access passes to support the rest of our camp. And so what happens is the 6 people vital to installing our deep playa taxi stand and radio system, where you can call a cab. Those people can go early to set up, but no one else in our camp gets an early pass. And in theory, you think, okay, well, yeah, that makes sense, but how do you build the camp? So then you have 6 people who are out there with no shade, with no infrastructure, and who are like literally sleeping in a U-Haul or a car, trying to wait for everyone to arrive to then get the shade structure up and da 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 da. So that's been a big thing, because when we talk to placement, they say, you're an art support camp, we're not allowed to allocate you any early passes, sorry. And then art says, we're only allowed to give you early passes specific for the art, not for your camp. So that's something that's been coming up a lot for us. And it's made some unsafe situations of people just being a little too hot and tired by the, AKA me and our core team, being exhausted by the time our camp gets there. And they're like, let's set up. So I've been trying to figure out, I know they're different departments, but from resources is, how do we think about supporting our artists and our art support camps more? How do we just make sure that even people who are cooking at the camp can be there to help cook for the people that are building? Not everyone's doing every job. So it's just, that's been the biggest limited resource. Other than that, Burning Man's the best. All our neighbors are so helpful. We missed like the most random small little divot in one of our engines and someone has it somehow. So we're so lucky, and we've always had great experiences with resources when we don't bring enough of something.
So Graham, actually,
you're saying that
what I
provides.
Yeah. So Graham, actually, for your question directly, the way I've never had that problem for WAPs and the tickets and stuff, because I have always, when provided my plan of staffing and crew, which all applications for Playa now ask, like, who are you doing? What are the roles? Why do you need X amount of tickets, right? You have to prove it, right? You have to tell them what the roles are. I always include in that original plan the what I call human support, right? Like, yeah, we need 6 builders, but they are now building full time. We need somebody that is going to be bringing them, lemonade and food and drinks if they're building out on Playa. And at least in my experience, I've never had any pushback from
we've gotten our numbers halved
like
every time of like, I don't know, da da da. So, but it could be at like a scale situation where like they know you guys have 5,000 people coming to what's happening, and it's a little different for a smaller. I don't really know. But our experience has been pretty brutal. But, like with all these things, everyone's learning, and we included that in our application and are hopeful it'll improve. We'll see.
I think if you give the role, I think if you don't ask for too, I think there's just too much history of people asking for too much. While on my end, I asked for too little year after year, and Level kept on seeing me by myself cleaning Playa till like Thursday or Friday after the burn. So then when I was like, yo, dude, like we really got screwed this year. We need more tickets. We need more tickets. I think they finally started to trust us as we went too small. But I think if you tell them like, yeah, it's like 6 builders, you're like, look, we got 3 woodworkers, 2 metal people, and then just keep it, be reasonable, right? Be like, look, we only need 2 people that are human support, right? One that's a cook and the other one that's like a support person for the cook. And those 2 people also happen to be the people that, while they're building, the art structure on Playa, they're building shade structure back at camp or something like that. You don't really need, like, honestly, I would be shocked that any camp needs more than 4 people maximum to support a potentially pretty large operating crew. And I think if you come back with like honest, like roles, like, look, we've got the cook, we've got this and this, these are the roles that they're going to do it. They'll say yes. I just think they've become very suspicious of, because there was a lot of inflation of a lot of camps over the years, just constantly asking for more and more tickets. And at some point they're just like, this is like BS, right? Like they would look at some camps that are like dude, to give you guys an idea, I pulled off the entire Fluffy Cloud in 2022 or yes, with 20 tickets. That sucked. Okay? Like, that was fucking horrible, but
You make it work.
good now.
You kind of froze up.
I think they've seen that you can do a lot with less. So yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
It's last year, Graham. Wow. We actually, so we love being a smaller camp. We have 100-foot by 100-foot footprint, which is under 20 up to 25 campers, which is perfect. Between the mutant vehicles, the personal vehicles, now that we have fuel, that's about as max as we could be. We had 12 tickets. We asked for more. This year they gave us 14, which is great. We do, talking about resources.
And are you a themed camp?
We're a mutant vehicle.
You're a mutant vehicle. Cool. All right. Interesting.
And one huge thing talking about resources is we used to keep our mutant vehicle in Reno. And the last couple of years, we're now at the 360. I don't know if everyone's heard of that. It's right on the edge of Gerlach. And we save a ton of money being able to essentially flat tow our car onto Playa every year. And speaking to what Graham and Rambo were talking about earlier, we now keep a carport on the go every year. So whoever's there first has shade, some coolers, etc. But one thing we really realized is just pulling back, not trying to redesign the goat. At one point, we were considering maybe doing an extension, a bigger stage. And it's like, that is not our car. The base vehicle is a truck, right? A flatbed truck. So basically we've simplified. Now 4th of July is our build week. So this year we're looking to add fire, any upgrades for the lighting, we're looking to do that at Jewel Playa. So basically we only have to access the car twice a year. And I know it's hard for folks if your car is in Texas or your art's in Colorado or New York, but for us, just kind of simplifying, finding storage that's right adjacent, basically on Playa, and just deciding we're only going to need to get out there twice a year now. And instead of going back to put the art to bed, we're going to keep it simple and just put it to bed as we leave the Playa. So I think that's helping, and just less going back and forth, and it's more affordable for everyone and less fundraising. So
this entire conversation just brought up another idea, is like some of these roles, like support roles, like going back to Graham's question about like, how do I, get a couple more tickets or work access passes, just to have people that can like cook some food, lunch and dinner for the people that have been working all day out, in the sun and, whatnot. That's like perfect stuff that there's like huge economies of scale of people sharing, right? Like if 4 or 5 support camps are kind of placed close to each other and they're in contact early, they can say like, look, across all of us, how big are our build teams? And they'll say, all right, we got 100 people. And be like, all right, let's just get 6 tickets for, call it, crew support. And now, everyone kind of pulls together, at least during build and strike, for, food resources / again, a little like, call it home crew that's taking care of the people resources. And that's, again, it's another thing that I think could be a way for all these different kinds of camps that are doing more complicated builds and strikes to support each other. But it won't be possible unless there's a way for camps to connect in relative proximity, even if they're not immediate neighbors.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I mean, we had 3 early passes, so to do build, infra, and cook is just with 3 people. It's hard to even put up shade. You know what I mean?
did you ask for more tickets? Because we just asked for more. They gave us 2 more this year.
We asked and pleaded, and no, but we don't know. But it was also our only second year, so we thought maybe it was just because we were working our way up in seniority. That's kind of our belief. And we were like, all right, we'll do the time.
Our mutant vehicle, I think this is the 5th or 6th year, so maybe that's
Yeah, so we figured we were just kind of getting on the radar, and that is part of it. Now we have a great relationship after 2 years with the art team, and that only happens when you come back, you know what I mean? And do a good job, as Rambo said.
Exactly, yeah. You deliver, you leave a good move map. Again, first 1 or 2 years is tough, but yeah, I really felt like this year, at the end of last year, like last year with the original grant, I really did say like, look, this is insane. We need a hell of a lot more than this. And they were able to kind of help us out with a little extra at the end because it was really, really bad. And then this year, thank God, I'm so grateful. Like, again, at least we've also been very honest. We have never inflated what we needed. It's always been bare bones. And we were lucky enough to get what we asked for, thank God. Because like our team was like shattering from overload on too few. But yeah, no, I think, yeah, over time, I think you get that trust and they help out more. But yeah, I mean, if there's a limited amount of tickets, if you guys read the article from placement on like the limits of growing Burning Man and all those other things on the Burning Man journal, like there really is a cap here. And if we're trying to find ways to use limited resources better, one of those limited resources being straight up population and related to that ticket access, finding ways for us to share in things that are easy to share, like again, meal prep. Like meal prep really seems like one of the most helpful things that like build and strike crews can have so that they can live. And then those same people, like they don't need to be cooking all day. Like I'm sure they can also put a few hours aside to just throw up some shade structure. Like that shit's not rocket science, right? Like lag bolts and a little bit of thing on the ground, like you're good. Like I really do feel like a small amount of people could do that kind of basic human support for a outsizedly large amount of builders, which could be nice.
Yeah, another thing I'll just add for anyone listening is we've had the best experience working with the art team out there and the artery for support. And I'm always amazed at how much they're checking up on us, on our process of building. And then if there's an issue, helping us figure it out. So lean on them and definitely don't be afraid to ask for help.
And I just want to put in my 2 cents. I will speak as a former theme camp lead. I was one of the kitchen leads, and I know when we built our camp, the first thing that we do is build the infrastructure. So like the kitchen and the place for people to relax and get shade are the first things that get built, because then we can rest and build all of the rest of the stuff. So if one of our neighbor camps came by and they said they had 10 people who needed to like be fed and sit down in the shade, that would be like such an easy ask to add some more food for another 10 people, especially if you were willing. Like we know what the cost per meal is per person. If you came and said like, hey, can we throw in a couple more people for your early meals, I would say yes.
Oh, so that just popped another idea into my head, which I don't know why, but that's actually what we do here, is that you can also schedule your build differently, right? Like if you only get, call it 4 tickets, and that's all you need to like build your art on a specific schedule. Let's say you need, Friday through Sunday to build it. I would basically see if your team can come in 1 extra day early, specifically just to do their own setup. So that's how I do. I mean, I didn't do this my first year, and it was like a disaster in 2019 when I was in art support camp. Because like, anyway, I don't want to go into it. It was horrible. But now what we do is like I arrive on Tuesday on Playa to get the camp placed, just like me and like the people in my RV, and like that's it. No one else is there. We're getting our equipment dropped, done, and all the containers, all the equipment, so it's just sitting there ready to work. Wednesday is build crew delivery day. Arrival day. And I tell them, you arrive, this is the day for you to get your shit right? You got a shift pod, you got a tent, you got your RV, you want to organize your clothes, like whatever the hell. There's no you have no responsibilities to the camp on Wednesday except for just yourself. And then we start build Thursday morning. So that could be another way of, without increasing the amount of tickets allotted, if people can just add 1 more day so that your build schedule actually incorporates your human needs, then that's another way of being able to do it. But I fucked that one up in 2019, so it's not obvious.
Something else, just to look at things from a fresh perspective. So every year for up until last year, we would take these massive 25-foot horns on and off of our vehicle, which takes 3 to 4 people. And then now that we're at the 360 and we're, we don't have to be street legal. Obviously we're far from that. We save a ton of time. So maybe just because you've always completely deconstructed something, do you need to do it? Look at it with fresh eyes, because that saves us hours every year. And now we can have 2 or 3 people go out, you know, like Rambo was saying, just to start out, get that first shade up, just get things rolling. And it really has saved a ton of time and will continue to do so.
Awesome. Well, I just wanted to check in because I know, Brother Graham, you were maybe going to have to leave us a few minutes early. So I wanted to, first of all, make sure we could thank you, and B, see if, just check in and see if there's any words that you wanted to leave us with.
No, really inspired by chatting and, really hoping that this can lead to, whether it's an art support mixer or even just a forum where people can start chatting a little closer to the bone of who's going to be out there and how we can support each other. If you're in this room, it's probably because you realize that you feel most fulfilled and have the best burn when you're out there gifting art and experiences to people. So it's an epic community, and stoked to be here and got some great nuggets today. So pleasure to be with everyone and see you out there not too long. Look for our cab.
Thank you, Brother Graham. For the rest of us, we've still got about 15 minutes left in our breakout session here, maybe 10 minutes, no, 15. So pausing here, we still have the availability if anybody who is a participant in the room has any questions that they want to bring up for discussion. For our remaining panelists, any thoughts that they have. Since we have some space at the end of as we're kind of winding down here, if we have any other support camps leads, we've identified a need to network. So if you want to raise your hand and hop on, tell us what your camp is, answer any of the questions that we've talked about so far. We would love to have any participation that anyone wants to share with us.
Actually, Lion, I got a thought that I'd like to throw out.
Yes.
Hold on a second. So here, I'll moderate myself well over here.
There you go.
There we go. Person talking, right? One thing that I've been thinking about recently compared to the days of old, back in the day, like you would be watching legit theme camps and projects and art projects wouldn't be operational until Tuesday. I mean, that was kind of the thing, is that like Gate was over the weekend, but you're like, the first 3 days of Burning Man, nothing's rolling yet because we're still building. But yet now we've developed a culture of like early access and WAPs and stuff where the expectation is that by the time Gate opens, everyone's in full steam. So what is so I'd like to throw that out to everybody about basically the expectation for things to be running at Gate or at a certain time versus like, yeah, we like, instead of arriving 3 days earlier, just fire 3 days later, that kind of time flexibility.
Yeah, I think it's certainly helped. We're on a smaller scale. Is any one of you participants, any of you like to speak to this point, or do you have a larger operation or a smaller operation? I know for us, though, basically we're ready to roll by Sunday typically, and we've started coming in Tuesday, Wednesday, I believe, is the sooner side of it. I think we got about 6 work access passes last year. So about half of the tickets allotted from BRC. And for us, just figuring it out, like I mentioned with the horns, just, okay, we don't have to reinvent the wheel every year and take those on and off was huge. And just finding better ways to work together and be more effective.
And I did also want to add some context to the issue of WAPs. This is actually tied into the request for camps to take a year off, because if y'all think about it, as the percentage of theme camps have increased, that's more camps that are applying for WAPs and wanting to have early access. And the org has population limits, so they can only have a certain number of people there by a certain time, both because of their contract with the BLM and also because they only have like a certain amount of emergency services to deal with a certain amount of people who are there. So as more camps are and more art projects are applying, the number of WAPs is not going up. So they still have the same camp for the number of people that they can do it. And so that's why it can be sometimes challenging to get everybody the tickets that they need when they need them, which is why it's so important for us to be able to collaborate with the other people who are going early so we can share resources and get all the things done that we need to.
Yeah. And Lion, that reminded me, a lot of folks in our camp, they do work for GATE. They are, what is it, the medical. So I'm not sure how many we got minus them, because they all get early access and get some of their shifts out of the way pre-open just to make it work.
Yeah, and I'm just reading, Marlena, your comment. Would you be open to hopping on the video and just telling us a little bit about your camp and sharing some of your thoughts?
Sure. I'm with
Awesome,
Creation.
welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yep, you are great.
Can you hear me now? We should all be pretty good at this by now, right? I'm with Creation Nation, and we're generally a pretty small camp, and a lot of what we do is kind of take and make, or make and take, I guess, in the correct order. Meaning we might do solar chandelier workshops, or I've started one called No Dark Wads, Light Your Shit Up. And people come to me and I do 2 sessions, one close to the beginning for the people who failed to plan. And I do a second session for people whose materials failed on them later in the week, right? So, and as an aside, we didn't talk as much about dark wads in the plenary this year as I would have liked to, because it was a real problem. 22 and 23, I noticed the e-bikes, people think they're good with just the headlight. Anyway, we have a shade structure, communal shade structure that we erect and have tables underneath it to host our, workshoppers. We have our own infrastructure. We like to set up a mister so that, we're careful with the water, but there might be a day that's particularly hot. We'll set up a mister in the shade workshop area and have people come in. I mean, there's kind of a lot to do, and what happened to us, that I heard a lot of anecdotal similarities to, was that last year a lot of camps people dropped out, and so they weren't as fully attended, and it just means you have fewer hands and fewer bodies to do the things that you need to do. And our camp, I'm the puppy at 55. My 2 other campmates, my husband and I are 55. My 2 other campmates are in their early 70s. So we could have used an extra day. We were pretty spent by Sunday night, getting everything up and ready. And then, wanting to have a burn too. We were pretty pooped. So thankfully this year we have our usual roughly 12, but yeah, we had 100 by 100 space. And we were very relieved to find out that our neighbor, who was Ocean Beach, needed more space. So we're like, here, take some. But yeah, that an extra day, and we did go back and ask for it. We didn't get it. And I want to respect the fact that placement has a lot of balls to juggle in terms of, the permit and how many people are allowed to be out there, and, what makes sense, etc. But yeah, it was a challenge last year.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. And I do want to just call attention in the chat. Luis posted the feedback form. So we are asking for anybody who came, if you want to share your thoughts on the breakout session, please let us know how we can make things better in the future. Are there any other of our attendees here who would be willing to hop on, maybe tell us a little bit about their camp? And if there's any of the things that we've talked about that you have any thoughts on, we would love to hear that.
Hey, this is Spacious from Camp Contact. I actually missed a lot of this, but happy to talk a little bit about what we're up to and kind of what our challenges are, and see if there's anything that resonates. We're a large camp, too large. We were 220 people the past 2 years. It's been too big. Yeah, we're
Wow.
yeah, get back to 150 where we were pre-pandemic there. And the nice thing is that we have a strong theme. We have a strong theme around dance and embodiment and acro yoga and authentic relating. And there is already this sense of mission around co-creating a space where we can offer workshops and events and transformational things. And we build a big dance floor to that end with shade for ecstatic dance. We build a couple domes, 3 domes for lots of workshops. And yeah, we really try to open up collaboration. Some camps, they have some same set of recipes they make for all the meals every year. And we kind of open it up, for better or for worse, to our campers to give us their recipes, even though they don't know how to scale them up to the size that we are. And debate that. There's this dilemma around how mechanical and rote do we make everything happen for ease and predictability, and how much magic, how much creativity, how much flavor, personality do we allow the camp on to take year to year, and err on the side of the latter, but want to get better at, and how do we do the both and in that? That's kind of a question. And yes, the acculturation always is an issue. We did a lot to interview all of our campers last year and make sure they were a good fit. But different interviewers have different things they check in for. And to be honest, it created some factionalization where the people that one camper brought in as interview, we're kind of one group of friends, and another group of people were another friends. Anyhow, hoping to kind of scale that down with the number of people we're in the camp, and maybe less people actually doing the interviewing that are really tight with each other on the vision and mission for the camp. But I guess, and then we're trying to figure out how to use technology. How can we better collaborate by signing up ahead of time and knowing where we're at and knowing who's who. We've done this. We print up magnets with pictures of everybody and put them onto a magnetic dry erase board so everybody kind of sees ahead of time who they're working with for the meal shifts.
Good idea.
Still hard this year. Still like a lot of people not showing up, and I guess yeah. Go ahead.
Can I ask you, how are you going to reduce the numbers? Is it self-selection, or are you just not inviting? I was wondering if you could speak to that.
Sure. Well, certainly we'll fill up, so people will show up. And there is this dilemma where the coolest people sometimes show up right at the end, last minute. Oh, I can come after all. Get me in. And I'm like, yes, you are such a core part of our camp. We're going to want you in. So we'll create some buffer zones in that, and certainly have a waiting list where people get prioritized, who are have long-term key components of our camp, and get first opportunity to come in if they can. But yes, self-selection certainly is happening this year. I will say we're not getting the same interest in camp as we've had at this time of year in the past. A lot of people got a lot of different things. A lot of people maybe don't want to burn so much anymore. And 2 years of rough weather, which we bore the brunt of both times. Last year was actually a better year for us than the year before, weather-wise, given our delayed strike and that sort of thing. So we'll no, we're doing the selecting now. We're having to do outreach to our campers that are core and see what it would take and what they need to feel comfortable coming back. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing, Mr. Spacious. And we are coming to the end of our breakout session here. So just want to do a little recap. First of all, thank you to our missing panelists and our remaining panelists for all of your wonderful wisdom and for sharing with us today. I just want to recap some of the things that we talked about. I know some of the things that came up were wanting to foster more collaboration between the camps. So trying to figure out who your neighbors are, not only for other support camps, but for other theme camps, and figuring out how can you work together? How can you support each other? How can we not duplicate resources and things like that? And we talked about how there are lots of other things that support camps can do other than just having a standard bar to be a vibrant part of the community. And I'm also glad that we got a chance to share all of the wonderful things that support camps do, because too often, to the point that was made before, do people walk by a camp and they can't immediately see its value and they say, what are those people doing here? And if the answer is, most people are probably surprised to know that the answer is, oh, they're building that art piece that you really loved on the play last night. So we want to make sure that everyone knows what everyone else is doing, so that we can appreciate all the hard work and participation that everyone puts in. So thank you for being here and being part of this discussion. Again, Luis posted the feedback survey again in the chat. So if you have some time, please fill that out and let us know how we can make this better in the future. And we'll leave the last couple minutes. Is there anyone who has any closing questions, comments before we wrap up? Wonderful. I should have it pulled up how many days there are till the man burns, but countdown is on, and we'll see all of you hopefully in the dust, or if you took a year off, that's great too, and we'll see you when you come back. And with that, thanks everyone. We'll close here. Have a great rest of your day.